You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today. Time to stroll around the coffee shop and look for someone to talk books with. There's Sarah Buhrman, and she's got her book Too Wyrd with her. How you doing today, Sarah?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I am doing outstanding. And it looks like you're hard at work editing something here with your laptop. So, tell me about your book Too Wyrd.
Well, Too Wyrd is an urban fantasy that stars a female character named Nicola, and she's just your average kind of person who gets tugged into essentially a hunt for her stepsister, and finds out that her stepsister has gotten involved in this group that is trying to start Ragnarok. And then all of a sudden there are demons and all kinds of other things just popping up all over the place, and she's got to deal with all of that.
Okay, what's Ragnarok?
Ragnarok is the kind of Armageddon of Norse mythology. Okay.
I'm not up on my Norse mythology, but that's why I always ask.
Yeah. The Marvel movies just came out with a movie called Ragnarok, which is only somewhat of a nod to the actual myth, but there's an entire story/prophecy of how it's going to go down. So there's actually a lot of information about it, very similar to like the Book of Revelations in the Bible.
Okay, sounds fascinating. So what made you decide to do urban fantasy?
I absolutely love the Dresden Files, and the thought hit me that the only thing that would make it better is if the main character was a little bit more like me. So that's what I did. I did it's a slightly more realistic type of storyline, and the character is, just a lot more everyday. I refer to her as an everyday woman, and she really is. She's just, she's got a kid. She has like a business that she runs from her home. She goes to the grocery store. She pays the bills. Sometimes she struggles to pay the bills. She's not a chosen one. She's not somebody who has any particularly extraordinary abilities. She's just a normal person who finds herself in this very unnormal situation.
And I can hear your family in the background. So how do you juggle family life, a day job, and writing?
I don't have a day job. My wonderful, wonderful husband supports me 100%, and that's emotionally, financially, writerly. I get to do whatever I want, and I said, okay, I want to write full time. And so that's what's happening.
Cool. So do you write after the kids are in bed?
Yeah. Often I end up staying up until about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I get people off to work and or school and whatever else needs to be done. And then I usually pass out for about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then get up and do it all again.
Some days your schedule matches mine perfectly. I have to admit, I'm the consummate night owl.
Oh yeah. It's so quiet. Nothing happens, so you can get things done.
Exactly. So how long did it take you to write to?
To write it, first draft was 5 weeks.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah. This particular series, the Rune Spells series, I actually write the books during NaNoWriMo, so I really crank them out.
So how long have you been participating in NaNoWriMo?
This will be my 8th year.
And just for a little personal plug, at jessiescoffeeshop.com, you will find a NaNoWriMo chat room. It's most active in November, but it is available for anyone to use year-round. So,
Ooh, might have to check that out.
Yep, it's there. It's pretty quiet this time of year. But
yeah,
come October, November, it'll start picking up, and definitely during November. I have to admit, I'm not a writer, but I love writers. I've tried.
We're an odd bunch.
I've tried to write. To me, it feels like punishment. But put me behind the microphone or give me a book to read, and I'm happy as a clam. So, are you a plotter or a pantser?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Like I said, I've done Nano for 8 years now, and I have only won the last 2 years. And the only difference between what I had been doing before and what I did during my winning years is I outlined my plot. And so I figured I am the kind of person who if I try and just write how it feels, I kind of wander around lost and confused. But if I nail down just, bare bones storyline, a bare bones plot, then I have a direction to go in, and it really helps with my writing, and it helps with, having a good story arc. So, yep, I plot.
So you're the kind that you plot out plot point A, plot point B, plot point C, but you have no idea how you're going to get from A to B and B to C, or do you do a more detailed outline?
I actually do a 9-point plot based on I think it's called the mini movie plot or something like that. I got it from a person who got it from another person who got it from a book or, something or other. You know how the writers' conference things go. But, it's like I know all of the major stops. Like if you're going across the country, I'm stopping in Chicago, I'm stopping in, Austin, Texas, I'm stopping in, Denver, that kind of thing. But I don't necessarily know the details of how I'm getting from, this plot point to that plot point. That's where the creative writing part really comes in. And I have found that sometimes the ideas that come to me during my writing actually changes my plot line. For Too Wyrd, I actually ended up expanding my plot line and shifting everything around because some of the things that happened while I was writing it was just like, well, this is a much better story, so let's just switch it up.
So you're not afraid to go against the outline if your character's like, I wouldn't do that. That's just not my nature.
Oh no. The outline is my guide. If I let it control me, then it kind of defeats the purpose. I'm very much the person in control of my story, except, when my characters do things. They don't do things very often, but sometimes they do things. I had one character who, he was supposed to die. That's all he had to do, was just die. He was the bad guy, and he had to die. And when I was writing the death scene, he just started being sappy and noble, and so I was literally writing with tears streaming down my face, cussing at him the whole time because he was totally messing it up. Because you can't have somebody be the bad guy if he's gonna pull something like that. So I had to literally rewrite the plot to find a different main villain, a different main antagonist, in order to make that work because, the scene was just too good to cut.
So they say editing is slaying your darlings. Have you ever had to take out a scene you absolutely loved, but it just didn't move the story forward?
No, but that is entirely because of the way that I write. I'm an extremely Spartan writer. Too Wyrd is just a little bit over 70,000 words. I don't actually write more than I absolutely need to, and my editing process ends up being a little bit more of adding in things that need to be beefed up rather than cutting things that don't need to be there.
So we're talking like changing from telling the reader that something happened to actually showing them the event?
Actually, I don't really have, I've never had anybody complain about that. All of my books go through beta readers, so I try and get as much feedback as I can for things like that. Mostly it's things like, well, you're talking about Odin and his eye. What's that about? Most people don't have enough of a background in Norse mythology, so I kind of forget what most people don't know. So I have to add a little more backstory there. I have to, it's mostly just beefing up the sensory experiences. And one time I had a character, it was a discussion, and I was like, well, I have the bare bones discussion, but I really want to beef up this discussion and bring out these characters more. Excuse me. So I went through and rewrote the discussion to make it more of a three-dimensional character exploration.
That sounds fantastic. So what advice would you give to someone who's looking to try NaNoWriMo for the first time?
Buckle your seatbelt and do it, because that is literally, I don't know how else to explain it, is literally the only way to get it done is to you have to do it. And you have to decide that you're going to do it. It is almost 100% organization and willpower, because if you let anything get in the way, it's just not going to happen. And, I had, 6 years of failing at Nano to back that up. And, it was everything from, oh, well, maybe I'll just, write on the weekends. Well, that didn't happen. Or I'm just really not sure of this story, so I'm going to let it marinate for a couple of days. Yeah, that turned into a week. Things like that. You have to decide that that's what you're going to do. You're going to sit down and you're going to get it written, and it doesn't matter, what comes out of it. You're going to get it done.
But would you advise most writers to start with at least a plot or a character or something they can base their story around?
Oh yeah. Like I said, I'm a plotter. I encourage a lot of people to at least try plotting. I realize that, some people, they like their pantsing, but I've also known so many people who held on to, writing by the seat of their pants. And when they finally tried plotting, it just opened things up for them. And so, it's like, even if it doesn't work out for you, that's fine, but you know what your best form of writing is. And even just thinking about your characters, deciding what their favorite color is, deciding where they grew up, things like that. Just having that kind of information in your head is going to give you a more three-dimensional person around which you can write your story. So I totally support, people playing with character development, plot development, planning, outlining, the whole 9 yards. I think everybody should try pretty much any technique they've ever heard of at least once.
Well, I've got to tell you, insofar as plotting out the main elements, major plot point A, major plot point B, and then filling in the details as you write, I'd have to say you're in good company. I mentioned I'm an avid reader, and I have one mainstream New York Times bestselling author that I'm a huge fan of. and that's how he writes.
Mm-hmm.
And his name's Brad Thor, and we're talking multiple #1 New York Times bestselling author. Because he says, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader.
Yep.
So I'd say you're in good company with your writing strategy.
I've noticed that the more, I guess, professional a writer gets, the more organized and planning they get, because, you know, when you're talking about putting out 4 or 5 books a year, and some of them do, I don't know how, but they do, you know, they have to know what they're doing. If it's a series, they have to have the details right, you know, the whole 9 yards. You can't just, you know, fiddle fart around and hope you catch it all in editing.
So, how do you research an urban fantasy?
With Too Wyrd, I actually chose Indianapolis as the main setting because my husband is from there. So, you know, I'd just be like, hey, where do these kind of people hang out? Hey, what kind of neighborhood is this? Hey, I also used a lot of Google Maps and, you know, the images and stuff, because I figured the residential streets, you know, the side streets and stuff like that, most people know what a city side street looks like. I don't need to go into a lot of detail. I don't need to make sure that I have all of the details correct, because after all, it is a fantasy. There's going to be some variation from the quote-unquote real world. But there are several major landmarks that I use in the story. And I studied pictures for, you know, hours, making sure that I had the descriptions correct and, you know, that kind of thing. So aside from that, you know, I figured there was always that element that it is a fantasy. So the details were more of a lending to the richness of the story rather than a necessity, if that makes sense.
It does. So do you also bone up on your Norse mythology, or how do you weave that in?
Well, okay, so funny thing, I am a Norse pagan, so Norse mythology is kind of a thing that I do on a fairly regular basis. So, yeah.
So that's how it came to be involved in your writing, because you're a Norse pagan?
Yes and no. The main thing, though, was that I had a dream. And the dream that I had was essentially, I actually wrote it into Too Wyrd. It's the dream that she has at the beginning of the book, which rather predicts the climax. And so I actually had this dream, and when I have vivid dreams, I kind of get like this whole background story that just kind of pops in my head. Like I just know the background. And so I woke up from this dream and went, man, that would be a good story. And there it went.
So do you only write during November, or do you write 12 months out of the year, but November is where you get a large chunk of your writing done?
Neither. I write the Runespell series in November, and that is simply to make sure that I get at least one of those out every year. The rest of the year, this year I have 4 or 5 short stories and anthologies, and then I put out a novella under my pen name for a different genre, and I do a lot of beta reading with other authors, you know, kind of we do like this exchange in the whole writing network. People beta read my stuff, I beta read other people's stuff, so, you know, kind of giving back to the writer community that way. So I think I'm being published 7 times this year so far. I might be up to 8 now.
Wow.
I lose track very easily.
Wow, that's a lot of publishing credits.
Oh yeah, well, I've gotten up to, I'm up to 4 fiction anthologies, 3 nonfiction anthologies. I have some nonfiction books out. I have some stuff out under. I have actually 3 pen names that I write various things under, just to keep the genres from crossing over too much, because I write both romance and children's books, and you don't want those two to get mixed up. So they each have their own pen name.
I think that actually makes a lot of sense. In fact, I happen to have a personal writer friend who she's co-writing a series with another writer under a pen name because it's a young adult, but they each have their own very much adult series, and they chose to do the young adult / middle grade one under a pen name, so that when someone looked it up, all they would find was children and young adult and middle grade, not the more adult nature books. Yeah.
And, I'm not at all shy about revealing my pen names, but I figure, again, with the looking up, you don't want people who are looking for books for their toddlers to find the romance stuff.
Exactly, and I think that's a great way to segregate it, but the fact that you're not shy about revealing your pen names also means you have pride in your work, and I don't think anybody should be shy unless they have a reason for protecting their family or their friends from the fact that they write these other genres in revealing their pen name.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a chance, if you'd like, at the end of the episode to reveal your pen names.
Yay.
I always do that. So, do you use a professional editor, or do you depend on just beta readers? How do you edit your work?
I do hire a professional editor. I am slowly... I have to be completely honest here. Editors are extremely expensive, so I've been kind of working my way up the editor food chain as I have more and more financial resources to, put into each book. But I used to do documentation for an FDA-regulated company, and one of the things that I was constantly harping on people is never, ever, ever finalize these documents without having somebody edit it for you. Just, read it over, because when you're the one writing it, your brain knows what you meant. And it will actually just completely rewrite what you're reading in your brain so that it matches what you meant. It's actually a thing. They have a real name for it in psychology and everything. But there's no way that I'm going to be able to catch all of my mistakes. And I'm only mortal. I am a physical being typing on a keyboard, so I'm not going to put out things that are perfect in terms of spelling. And every now and again you get the whole 2-2 things, where you double a word or something or other. And I'm horrible at spelling because I am very phonetic in my spelling, so English doesn't like me much. So I'm going to make mistakes, and it's very unlikely that I'm going to catch all of my mistakes. So I need to have somebody who knows what they're talking about go in and fix them. And it's interesting because when I was a child, we actually lived in England, and so there are a few things that I do in my phrasing that are very British, that have just, persisted throughout my life. And I consider that part of my author voice. So people are always, changing those things. And I'm like, yeah, I know that I do that. So I'm just going to not change that because it's part of my writing, It's technically correct in Britain.
So do you ever catch yourself using the British spelling for words instead of the, quote, American English version spelling, with the extra U in favorite or something of that nature?
Yes, I do. I'm really kind of weirded out by the American love of the letter Z. I like S's better for a lot of those things. But, it kind of depends on what it is. Mostly I put the word out there, and I save it for later and decide at the editing stage if I'm going to keep it this way or that way, or whatever. So
the fact that you, for lack of a term, sometimes combine British English and American English, has that ever gotten you slammed in a review, or have you ever gotten really negative criticism or feedback on that?
I can honestly say I haven't actually gotten very much negative feedback at all. I just recently got my first 3-star review on Amazon. Everything else is 4 and 5 stars. And it was a thing that was personal preference. He didn't like my main character, so okay, well, not your kind of book then. So yeah, I've gotten all kinds of feedback, and nobody seems to have much of an issue with any of that. So
I think it's great that you include both a little bit of your own personal history with the occasional, British spelled word or the British colloquialism. I think that brings character to your writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say if it's working for you, don't change it.
Yeah, every author has their little quirks, and I first noticed it in the fantasy genre when I was reading the Wheel of Time series, and then the author Robert Jordan died before the end of the series, and it was finished by another author. Robert had taken extensive notes, and they actually had chosen who was going to finish it because, he was getting old and sick and things like that. But one of the things that I noticed was there were these phrases that he would use in people's descriptions throughout all of the books. And then this other author changed them. And it was just like, but, this character is supposed to tug on her braid like a bristling cat. I mean, that's like every single book has that multiple times. So it was like the first time that it really crystallized in my head how much an author has a voice and what that can say about that author. And so I kind of took that to a conscious level of figuring out what things constitute my voice and whether or not that's the kind of voice that I want to have, which I think might be a little odd for an author to actually do consciously.
Well, I have to say you're the first person who's actually spoken to the author's voice in such detail on the show, and I think it's great because one of my goals when I'm doing the show is to kind of peel back that curtain just a little bit, because doesn't everybody love the inside story or the inside scoop of how this book came into existing?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you have loved to have gotten a peek behind the curtain with Robert Jordan in the Wheel of Time series?
Okay, so funny thing. I am in the Nebraska Writers Guild, and one of the other prominent members of the Nebraska Writers Guild actually is married to a childhood friend of Brandon Sanderson, who is the author who took over the Wheel of Time series from Robert Jordan. And so she was allowed to look at the notes that Robert Jordan had, and she took pictures and showed us.
Oh, that's awesome. But
yeah. I've never met any of these people, but vicariously.
But don't you love when you get just that little peek?
Oh, yeah.
And that's part of why I like to have authors on and discuss their work, because not only do I want to discuss the plot in your book and how you develop your characters and why your characters are the way they are, I just think all readers crave that little bit of inside knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the fact that you have complete bios for your characters or the fact that you're a night owl.
Total night owl.
All right, well, we have come to the time to take that ever-loving commercial break. Yes, even in radio, we have to pay those bills. So, we are going to take that commercial break, and I will see you on the other side with Sarah.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Thank y'all for hanging in there with us over that commercial break. It is time to refresh the coffee and continue our conversation with Sarah Buhrman. So, Sarah, since I just mentioned coffee, what's your favorite coffee shop treat?
I love chai lattes.
Oh, I know a couple of authors that would join you for a chai latte.
Oh, yeah. And I have lactose intolerance, so yes, I prefer almond milk, but if I have to, I'll get the soy milk. And no, it's not a preference of taste. It's a preference of not being in the toilet for an hour.
Hey, makes all the difference in the world.
Oh, yeah.
So what little nugget of information do you find that your readers most often want to know that you didn't put in your books? Because I'm sure you don't include your complete character bio, their favorite ice cream or their favorite color in your books.
Yeah. Most of the time, all I get is, what's going to happen next. But I have had a couple of people ask about Nicola's relationship with her mother. So I may have to develop that in one of the future books in the series.
So how many books do you think are going to be in this series?
I already have it outlined. Very, very, very basic outlines, but 9 books in the series.
Wow.
Yep.
So are you traditionally published or self-published?
Both. Too Wyrd and the Rune Spells is traditionally published through a small press called Black Rose Writing, and they have been wonderful and created a beautiful cover and the whole 9 yards. I do have some anthologies that go through, whoever's putting together the anthology decides, but some of them are through small presses, some of them are self-published, and then I have a few books that are, like my nonfiction tends to be pretty niche, so I decided to just self-publish those, and I have an anthology of short stories that I decided to self-publish, things like that. So I do a bit of both.
So what kind of nonfiction do you write?
Mostly it is pagan, like essays and like how-tos and things like that. But I also do it's called Life 101, How to Be a Grown-Up, which is all of the things that they don't teach you in school, that they probably never taught you in school, and that everybody expects you to know. Like
I was going to say, give me a couple of examples.
How to cook. And I have an entire, I broke it into booklets. One of the booklets is cooking. This is the basic utensils that you need to set up a kitchen in order to be able to cook for yourself. This is how you make scrambled eggs. This is how you boil pasta. Because, when I was growing up, I'm a little bit older and wiser than a lot of people. I don't know about the wise, but I'm definitely older. But, I did the home ec where they taught you how to make a burger. My husband, however, they couldn't even teach them how to bake a cake without, jumping through a whole bunch of hoops because of where he was at. So, there's a lot of people who did not get kind of that basic cooking. And, most of the people who are younger-ish adults now, we grew up in a time where TV dinners were so awesome. And, why would you come home and cook when you can get this cheap stuff from the store that you just throw in the stove, or, Hamburger Helper, that kind of thing. So the whole basic cooking thing kind of didn't get taught to a lot of people. And so I have like this, it's nothing fancy. Just this is what you need to know in order to be able to cook yourself a flippin' meal while you're an adult. I have a chapter on renting, which goes over like the minutia of how to find an apartment, how to budget for an apartment, because it's not just what your rent is. It's, you have to take into consideration all of these other things. How to read a rental contract and what it means, that kind of thing, which so many people get into trouble with because, nobody thinks to teach their kids how to rent an apartment. It's just not something that people think about. I have a book on finances that goes over everything from how to fill out a W-2, how to decide what kind of bank account to get.
Wow.
What the differences are between an IRA and a 401k.
What's your background? You've got my curiosity up. What's your background?
I was deposited at college and ended up wandering around in the city, several hundred miles away from my parents, trying very, very hard to be independent and not knowing what I was doing. And I tend to research everything and pick up skills really, really fast. And I found out that after a couple of years, I was actually giving advice to people on things that I'd already had experience with.
Have you done one on how to do laundry?
That will be in the housekeeping one. I'm not completely done with that series. As you can imagine, it can get a little boring to write about things like, taxes and doing laundry and stuff like that. So I kind of take a break here and there from that one. But that will be in the housekeeping, managing your household booklet.
And are those books under Sarah Buhrman as well?
Yes, they are.
Okay. That's great. So when you're not writing how-to books, you're writing urban fantasy, huh? Among other things.
Books, or children's books, or let's see, I do I guess you would call them paranormal romances, or I toyed around with doing a cookbook for a while. I pretty much I bounce all over the place, literally. I have a science fiction that I'm eventually going to rewrite and put out because I love that story. It was my very first completed novel, and it was horrible.
Well, don't they always say give yourself permission to write a crummy first draft?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was like a fourth draft, and it was still horrible. It just needs to be redone.
So that one's going for major overhaul, not just editing.
Yeah, well, I started that one when I was like 14, so...
Enough said. Yeah, that I definitely think you grow and change as a writer, because while I'm not one, I'm like on a little island or a little raft in the water surrounded by writers, and I'm always getting this, right, chirped at me, kind of like the seagulls in Finding Nemo, mine. Although in my case, it's, you need to write. And I'm going, I'll read what you write. I'll beta read for you. But I'm not writing. Now, do you write in Microsoft Word, or do you have other software that you use?
I have, it's called Writer's Cafe. It's very similar to, like Scrivener.
Okay.
But I tried out Scrivener, and I did not care for it at all, because what I was looking for in a program was very specific, and this Writer's Cafe gives me exactly what I am looking for, which is essentially a format that focuses on the outline and a writing style that, one of the things that I hear a lot about Scrivener is that it's really easy to rearrange things. I don't rearrange things. I write them more or less in order as they need to be every time. So that's not a function that I really care about. But Writer's Cafe has a really great outlining, and it has a notebook section where you can write in it. And the thing I love about it is it does not have spell check or grammar check.
Really?
So I don't get distracted by those little wiggly lines, because, I know I'm going to mess up. But if I see the little wiggly line, I'm like, oh, I have to go fix that. No, none of those wiggly lines. So I write everything in this notebook, and then I copy paste it into Word and run it through the spell check and everything.
Like I said, I've heard a lot about Scrivener. I've heard a lot about writing in Word, but Writer's Cafe, that's a new one. Who puts out Writer's Cafe?
It's a company called Manion, I think it is. Something like that. They're from the UK. It's a little company that just has this lovely little, you download the software from the internet, and they have a free version that you can try out, the whole 9 yards.
I always think it's fascinating to ask writers a little bit about things other than strictly writing. So, now when you're creating your characters, Do you basically sit down and interview them and ask, once you've got this name dreamed up for your character, do you sit down and figure out what their favorite flavor of ice cream is and develop all that backstory right away, or do you delve into that as you're writing?
Neither. When I write, it's like there's a movie playing in my head that only goes like 5 minutes ahead of what I've written. So, when I have another character come in, I see this character and I can hear them speaking in my head, and I can see the way that they move and the way that they talk, the way that they gesture. I see this character as a fully formed person in my head. And then, somebody will say, well, what's their name? Well, I don't know what name fits this person. So, I find the name. And then, somebody will be like, well, what's their favorite color? Well, it's red. I know this person, it's like they are already real, and they've downloaded themselves into my brain, and I already know all of the stuff. I don't actually think about it.
So do you keep a running list of character profiles and things like that, or do you just try and remember it all in your head?
Well, I try to remember it all in my head, and I am actually in the process of going back through and developing profiles, because when I was writing Too Wyrd, I discovered during the editing process that I had changed a character's eye color. It was a subtle change, but it was like green to hazel or something like that. But I was like, that's the kind of thing that readers pick up on. I can't do that. I should probably write these things down a little better, because it was like a minor character, but, she just popped up again. So, yeah, I'm going through and, making sure that I have full descriptions. So when these characters come back, because they keep coming back, they don't just go away. They don't just show up and then go away like good little characters. They keep coming back like salesmen.
So what's your favorite part about writing? What makes you want to go sit at that keyboard and start typing?
Well, that's the funny thing. I mean, I enjoy writing. It's the thing that I want to do the most in the world, but I can't really say that I love it. Like, I don't have like this deep need or fiery passion over it. What I do like is when people tell me that they got something from my writing, like something made sense to them or touched them or, made them think. That is the part that I absolutely adore, is knowing that somewhere there are people whose thoughts are slightly different because of what I put on paper.
So do you keep a very similarity with all your characters, or do you make them diverse? Or what's your goal when you're creating all these characters? Because you have to create them either in your conscious or subconscious.
Interestingly, I get a lot of compliments on how diverse my characters are. I have characters of color. That sounds odd. I have characters who are people of color, people of various races. I have Too Wyrd essentially centers around a homeless population. Nicola's best friend is a gay man, and the guy who is kind of like the figurehead leader of the homeless people that they have to interact with is also gay. There are Hispanic people in the book. I actually have some ideas for stories that center around people with autism. I have one that is it's another series that I'm toying around with. I haven't quite gotten it to the point where I'm ready to start writing it, but there is a character in there who is a quadriplegic, and essentially, I look around my world and I see all of the various kinds of people that are in it, and I want them all in my books. So I try and get as much variety as I can into my books. And,
well, I don't think this has come up before on Coffee Shop, but as a wheelchair user, I think it's great that you include such a diverse character population, and I, for one, would love to see a book that included a wheelchair user as not just a secondary or tertiary character, but with a more prominent role, because you don't find that in most books.
Yeah, and the way he's going is he's probably going to be the main character's love interest, which was a little bit surprising. I didn't think she was going to have a love interest.
So even your characters can surprise you. Now, I promised you at the beginning, why don't you give out your pen names and your social media information in whatever order seems most logical to you? But start with Sarah for me.
All right. The vast majority of my fiction is under Sarah Buhrman, and that's Buhrman. You can find me through pretty much any format under Sarah Buhrman or Author Goddess. My website is authorgoddess.com. My Twitter is Author Goddess, and I'm on Facebook as Sarah Buhrman Author. And I have a street team called the Wyrdlings, and it's WYRD Lings, like the title to Wyrd. And I have another page for just the Rune Spells series. So if you really like that one, but you don't really care about anything else I've written, then you can go to there. I also write under the pen name Lena Grace, and that's Greyce. And most of that is romance and erotica, always with a fantasy flair, although some of it gets a little kinky, so just warning y'all. And you can find that on my Facebook. I don't have a separate webpage or Twitter accounts for my pen names because, oh my gosh, I have so many pages to keep track of already.
I can totally understand that because everyone's saying, well, why don't you have a separate Twitter for Jesse's Coffee Shop? Sorry, folks, I have enough to keep up with.
Yeah. I have 3 blogs and a vlog that are associated with my Author Goddess sites and my children's books, which are under Pagan Children's Books on Facebook. And it's Selena Wolfcat is the pen name that I use for that. And then some of my nonfiction pagan essays are under my handle Kali Sarah, which is what I use for my 2 podcasts, Pagan Musings and Pagan Weekly News. And that is why I have no time.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join me in the coffee shop.
Thank you.
And it is time for me to snatch that copy of Too Wyrd off the table, pour myself another cup of coffee, and sit down and enjoy a great book. But for any of you trying to find me out there in the social media world, you can find me on Twitter at Jesse's POV. If you're interested in coffee shop, you can find jessescoffeeshop.com, or you can email me at the station if you want to find out more about how to be a guest on the coffee shop. Jessie, Jessie, at KLRNRadio.com. And on that note, I will see you folks next time in the coffee shop.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, $1,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.